Hey everybody, and welcome to Gamenightathon Year 3. So for those of you who are new here, this is a readathon that I do twice a year. I do one in July and I do another edition in December, but these do not run across different years, so you can definitely start from scratch right now. The July edition does give you an advantage in the December edition, but even then you could just hop on in the December edition as well. Basically the difference is just that we will be tackling different games. And for this year, for the July edition, we are actually tackling a new game. So the past 2 years we've been playing a version of Encore. This year we are tackling a new game at the request of Kitty from Kitty's channel, Kitty in the Books. And we are tackling Labyrinth. So I will not leave this massive box on my view the entire time, but I will have some videos running across the screen from time to time, illustrating some of the points that I'm going to be making. But so basically the point of Labyrinth is, normally it's a game, a competitive game in which you try to get to as many of the icons that are mentioned on the board. So you draw cards, it gives you an icon, you try to reach that icon, and you try to collect as many cards as possible by using as less turns as possible, and the person who ends up with the most cards is the one who wins. We're gonna make a slight adjustment there. We are making this a team-based readathon. This is also the first time that I'm doing a teams-based readathon for Gamenightathon, so I hope you guys will enjoy it. But so, first off, the readathon will run from the 1st of July until the 31st of July. I will be out of the country before that, so I won't be able to answer too many questions ahead of time. I will definitely try my best to check regularly whether there's any questions on this video, but I might be a little bit later in my response rate because I will be on a trip for the last 3 weeks of the month of June. This is, as indicated, a teams-based readathon. We will have most of it taking place over on Discord. I hope to be able to do some sprints, but I will already kind of promise that they're most likely going to be Discord sprints, potentially only chat sprints and not live sprints, but probably not on YouTube. I'll try, but I'm only back to creating videos on YouTube for like a month or two, and I haven't been up for reading sprints on the channel in any case. But so, that is what we will be doing. And in terms of the choice of the teams, basically, preferably you just have this be determined by fate, but as I don't control what you're doing, you're of course also just allowed to choose one by preference. There will be 4 teams. They are the based on the icons that you will see at the corner pieces of the board. So you have the heart team, the square team, the triangle team, and the circle team. I had to think really hard about what shape that I had left. So basically your team will determine your starting position on the board. As indicated, these teams correspond to the corner pieces of the board. So whichever team you land on, either because you've chosen the team or because a random generator has chosen this team for you, that is the space that you will be starting the readathon from. Now, there are a few setup things that we have to determine as we are going along this journey, because you will see on this visual that the visual comprises, and let me make some room for visual, that the visual comprises of a board that contains grey and white spaces. Now the grey spaces are spaces that will not be moving. These are spaces that will stay there throughout the entire game, so you cannot shift them along. However, the white spaces, currently they're blank, they're not filled, but you will be filling these up with the additional tiles that I will provide. And these can shift throughout the readathon. So you will see you have a second visual that has all these extra tiles on it, and my apologies for the wanky disorder of that page. I made all these visuals in a very short period of time because I think about a month ago I was still saying that I wasn't sure whether there was going to be a Gamenightathon this year, because I've just not been in a, I've just not really been in the headspace for creating, and so sorry that the visuals are looking a little bit shoddy this year, but it also means that your printer needs less work. But so this page will have all of the extra tiles that you need for the game, so you'll have to cut these out, and then basically what you'll be doing is you will be filling up the board with those tiles. I will be illustrating this in some video clips, but I'll be illustrating it on the original board just because those are cardboard cutouts, which is a little bit easier to use to illustrate some of the mechanics of the game. Basically, you'll be turning the tiles around willy-nilly, meaning there should be no thought processes in like, ooh, which direction am I going to turn this in, and oh, where exactly on the board am I going to place it. Preferably, you just place them in, you know, like a normal order, like from left to right, top to bottom, and stuff like that. But in any case, when you're placing them, it should just be like you're placing them wherever your hand is like automatically going, and you shouldn't really be thinking about where you want to place it. And as you turn it around, the way it ends up oriented, that orientation you are going to stick with as you are turning it around. And as a consequence, your labyrinth will look like a mishmash of some smaller paths, but most likely quite a few obstacles along the way, because it is not, I mean, you would have to have the best luck in the world for you to end up with a maze that like perfectly aligns and has perfect pathways all along. And so the goal of the game is going to be, you're going to have to orient your way around the maze, and you're going to have to slide the columns or the rows in order for you to be able to reach the icons that you are going to have to land on. So basically, there's a third page, and that third page has all of the icons on them, so you can cut that out and use those as cards that you will then shuffle, place decked on a table somewhere, and then whenever you feel like picking up a new book, or whenever you're ready to pick up a new book, whenever you've completed one of the prompts, you can turn the card around and see what the next prompt is that you should be reading for. I discourage you from reading multiple books at once, or like from looking at multiple prompts at once, just because of the gameplay element of the board. However, if you're gonna do it, then I just need you to keep track of how many times you've shifted the board and just play it out as if you're doing it one by one. So don't turn 3 cards around and figure out how you would navigate the maze in order to get to those 3 in that order. Turn 1 around, look for it, write down how many times you've shifted the maze, and then only then turn the second around and do the same, and then the third, for example, and do the same. And then you can be reading those 3 books around the same time, but you know, like I just avoid seeing a next prompt before you've completed the steps on the board. Yeah, so navigating the board. As indicated, you can shift columns or you can shift rows, so you will have 1 extra tile that was left over when you were setting up the board, 1 tile that didn't have the free space, and so every column or every row that starts with a white tile at the edge is one that you can slide. So it means that from wherever you want to, you can add this additional tile, and you can add it to the beginning of the row, for example, and then every square on it will slide until the end of the row. The final one will slide off of the board. This becomes your extra tile that is now available for you again to slide onto another row or column of the board. And this sliding you can do whenever you want throughout your turn. So on your way to reach your icon, you can do this at the beginning of your turn, for example, when your token hasn't moved yet, or you can move your token a little bit around, slide the board, move it again, or you can move all the way to your to the icon that you need to grab, and only then slides. Now, one rule that I don't think is in the original game that I am going to impose here is that for every single prompt that you are fulfilling, you need to have slit the board once. Meaning that if you are lucky enough to draw a card that you can instantly reach without having to slide a row or a column along the board, you will still have to do one slide before you can pick up the next card. However, also don't just slide willy-nilly, because every time you slide the board you earn a 50-point deduction. So I hope that that was clear, because this actually is the second time I had to film this, because I lost my footage the first time around, and now I'm no longer fully sure of what I've already told you guys, because I still have the previous version of when I filmed this in my mind as well. But so, basically, that's what you're going to be doing throughout the game. You're going to pick up a card, see which icon you have to reach, try and reach it with as little slides of the board as possible. And when you've done that, you can log your book. I'll talk about prompt selection later. And then you'll have to log the author, the title, how many pages the book contains, and how many slides across the board you needed in order to reach that icon. And so yeah, you'll try to do that as much as possible throughout the month. The more books you complete, the more points you can accumulate, but also the more points you can lose. So potentially it is actually in your benefit if you are a slower reader who just has less books to read, because potentially you'll just incur less negative deduction points. Final thing that I should be mentioning here is the scoring system. So I've already mentioned that you get a 50-point penalty whenever you move the board along. However, there are more things to keep in mind, but not that much. There are basically just two mechanisms to the scoring. There's a plus points and a minus points. Plus points are basically your page count. So if you read a book that has 323 pages, then you are scoring 323 points, minus the 50 for the one like obligatory shift that you have to do, minus however many other slides that you do. And that is also why I said that it is potentially the case that you will have a higher score at the end of the month if you read less books, because you just might incur less negative points and still result in a higher overall score if you had enough of a page count to compensate for those like negative points, whereas somebody who may have read like 15 books throughout the month will have had to reach 15 icons on the board, will definitely have a deduction of 15 times 50, which I'm not gonna calculate right now, which is like, even though I said that my brain is calculating it right now, it's like 750 minus points, right? And so that person will automatically have that deduction, but they will most likely have had to slide more than that one time per turn in order to reach their icons. So, you know, it's not necessarily the case that the people who read the most will also be the ones who get the highest cumulative points accumulated, and in any case it will be teams based, so it will be the average of the team that counts, not the individual scores. The team which has the highest average score will win, and they will get the bonus slot for the lottery edition in December. Now, I think that is all I have to say about the gameplay. So let's talk about prompts. There are 24 icons on the board. You can complete this readathon by reading 24 books, and the selection of prompts has been chosen to be very wide, like wide. Whichever way you can interpret an icon, you can read the book for. So what I mean by that is there are 24 icons that are on the board, on the cards, and whichever association you can make with that icon, you can count for your reading prompt, with the exception of the color. For example, there is a icon on the board that is an anatomical heart. You could not choose to read a book with a red cover because a heart is red. That you could not do. That's the one thing that I'm gonna tell you that you cannot do. You cannot do a color association. What you can do, however, is say, okay, anatomical heart. So a heart makes me think of romance. So you can read a romance books for this. The anatomical part of an anatomical heart can kind of make you think of maybe some terror books with some like serial killers or something like that. It can make you think of scientists, of doctors. It can be a book that you love, a favorite of yours that, you know, has all of your heart and soul embedded in it. It can have a heart on the cover itself. The name of the author can be Heart, for example. Anatomical or Heart can be in the title. There are 20,000 ways probably in which you can fill in every one of these prompts. And I'm also not gonna give you an explanation for every single one of the icons in telling you like, okay, this icon, you can do this or that with it, because I want to leave you guys the liberty to interpret it in your own way. I would love to hear your interpretations as well. So if possible, please let me know over on the Discord group what you're reading next, what icon it is for, and how you are interpreting the prompts. There are some very rare random icons on there that I'm really eager to see how you guys are going to be interpreting them. And I'll give you one more example for some of the ways in which you can interpret certain prompts. So another prompt or another icon that is on there is the number 3. So that, for example, could be a third book in a series, a book that is part of a trilogy, a book that has 3 people on the cover, a book that has a page count that starts or ends with the number 3, a 3-part title, a book of 3 parts, a book with 3 perspectives. Yeah, anything that you can think of with the letter, the number 3 can count for this. So that's just to say that there will be many ways to interpret all of these prompts, and that is actually what I'm looking forward to the most. The main goal of this readathon, as always, and as every readathon that is out there on the universe, is to make reading fun and to make the selection of what we're reading fun. And so I hope that with this prompt mechanism, I've made it fun and challenging for you to figure out what you're reading, but also for you to kind of figure out whether the books that you've already set out to read throughout the month can be used within this game, can be interpreted in such a way that you can count them for your reading prompts. And yeah, I think that with that having been said, there isn't anything left for me to say, which is scary because I definitely can tell you that the first time that I filmed this video, it took 40 minutes and now I did it in 15, so I'm really starting to worry. I forgot to mention 20,000 things within this video, but let's hope that Short and Snappy does it and that I was just like speaking crazy talk, being out of my mind when I first introduced this video. So yeah, if nothing is clear about this, then you know what this is, why this is, because I was probably forgetting 20,000 things about the game. But let's hope that that wasn't the case. In any case, leave me your questions down below in case you are here for the live premiere. Most likely I am not in the chat, so leave your questions in the Discord, leave your questions underneath the video and I will get to them there. I won't be able to answer the live chat for the premiere, but I had asked some people whether they wanted the premiere regardless, and they did want so hopefully you guys are having an awesome time during the premiere, and if I'm there, hello! But so yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, hope to see you guys there for Gamenightathon. There is no sign up form for the readathon, I typically don't tend to do it, but yeah, if you have an intention to take part, please let me know below this video as well or in the Discord. I'll be happy to kind of already see who's going to be there throughout the month, but otherwise just appear throughout the month and I'll see you guys. Yeah, maybe I should talk. Then in terms of resources, let me recap what we have available for resources. So we have 3 visuals, we have the board visual, we have the additional tile visual, and then we have the icon cards as a visual. You will have to select a pawn to place on the board yourself. You can also choose to, instead of using the cards that have all of the icons on it, to try and make a wheel for all of them with, I guess, the titles, like the descriptions that I give in that guide. And aside from that, you will have a Google form that you will use throughout the month to track or like to log all of your reading, for which you will have to have kept count of how many times you have moved the maze, but also of the number of pages of the book that you've read. And then you will also, and so that Google form will not be there at this point in time, it will be there on the 1st of July, fingers crossed. And then the final thing that will be available, maybe not yet on the 1st of July, will be an Excel sheet that you will all have access to, in which you will be able to see your progress and how you compare to others. Or maybe I'll do it teams based, maybe you'll just see the team's progress and compare it to other teams. But so yeah,